Okay, ja. Nö, ist nix. Zentrale, Zentrale, der Prototyp ist geklaut worden.
The third generation of Golfs is once again setting new standards, especially in the areas of safety and environmental protection. In this program, we will highlight the latest technical innovations relating to the engines, the bodywork, the self-diagnosis facilities, and the special workshop tools. Further to watching the video and answering the questions in the workbook, you will find it helpful to look at the self-study book 140, where you will find further in-depth information. The new engines have a greater cubic capacity and produce more torque. The result is an increase in as the engine revs are lower, thereby reducing noise, fuel consumption, and harmful emissions. The introductory range of fuel-injected petrol engines includes a 1.4-litre 60 bhp, a 1.8-litre 75 bhp, and a 1.8-litre 90 bhp model, as well as a 2-litre 115 bhp and the top of the range 2.8-litre VR6 with an output of 174 bhp. The initial range of economical diesel engines available are the 1.9-litre 64 bhp naturally aspirated model and the 1.9-litre 75 bhp Umwelt turbo diesel. Ancillary units which have a high power requirement are driven by a low-slip multi-ribbed drive belt. To ensure the correct belt tension, a spring-loaded tensioner is fitted under the alternator of the majority of engines. To remove the belt, first slacken these two bolts. Using the new special tool 3297, together with a torque wrench, depress the alternator against the spring tension and remove the belt. To refit the belt, reverse the removal procedure. On the 2-litre engine, release the belt tension using the new special tool 3299. Further to the instructions in the workshop manual, when dealing with the VR6 engine, first release the belt tension using a 17mm ring spanner before screwing a bolt into the tensioner pulley. This helps to avoid damaging the threads of the pulley. Another point, pertinent to the diesel engines of the new Golf, is that it is no longer necessary to retighten the cylinder head bolts. The electrical wiring of the engines is via a multi-pin connector, which facilitates the removal and installation of the engine and is also useful when fault finding. When checking for continuity or taking measurements, etc. at the connector, you will require the VAG 1594 test lead set. The self-diagnosis sockets for use with the VAG 1551 tester are located in the dash. From here, it's possible to call up all the self-diagnosis systems. A further improvement for environmental protection is the introduction of asbestos-free gaskets. The familiar monomotronic engine management system is fitted to the 1.4 litre and both 1.8 litre engines. The 1.8 litre 90 bhp engine has been optimized in respect of fuel consumption and power output, and due to a slightly higher compression ratio, a minimum of 95-octane unleaded fuel should be used. A 45-pin control unit with a new connector and locking device manages the modified Digifant ignition and injection system of the 2-litre 115 bhp engine. You may already be familiar with this system from the 2-litre Passat. The Digifant control unit is now self-learning. In other words, it adapts itself automatically to changing conditions. Therefore, the CO and idle speed no longer need to be adjusted. The only adjustment that may occasionally be required is the basic setting of the ignition timing, which is carried out by simply moving the distributor. The self-diagnosis system has also been improved. Faults now remain stored in the fault memory even after disconnecting the battery. When fault finding, always begin by interrogating the fault memory. This can be done in the usual way via the rapid data mode. If any faults are recognized, make sure they are located and rectified before continuing further. And of course, don't forget to cancel the memory. It's advisable after cancelling the memory to carry out a road test and interrogate the memory once again. In this way, you can ensure that the problem has definitely been rectified. To check and adjust the ignition timing, first make sure that the engine is at operating temperature and all prerequisites have been met. Next, set the system into the basic setting mode by entering from the function menu the code 04 and the display group numbers 00. When in this mode, items such as the digital idle stabilization control are switched off. By the way, the digital values displayed in the 1551 window during this test are of no significance. Increase the engine revs and compare the timing figure in the 1367 window with that specified in the literature. As mentioned earlier, if a correction is required, simply turn the distributor. After completing the check, leave the engine to idle for about a minute to allow the adaptive learning system to readjust. Finally, end the sequence by pressing the arrow key and entering the appropriate code. Providing any additional prerequisites have been met, you can at the same time take the opportunity to check the idle and CO settings. And don't forget that the CO meter's hose should be connected to the measuring pipe under the bonnet. As the idle and CO settings are not adjustable, consult the workshop manual if the readings are incorrect. Entering the function code 08 calls up the measuring block. By selecting and keying in the appropriate 2-digit display group, it's possible to call up information about the management system and its various sensors. For example, in this instance, it's the coolant temperature, RPM, throttle valve angle, and the battery voltage that are displayed. For ease of use, the figures are displayed as physical values. To evaluate the readings, you will of course need to look in the appropriate section of the manual. Also in the manual, you'll find a list of other display group numbers that can be used and the items that are subsequently checked. To enter a different display group number, first press the Cancel button and then key in the new code. And as you probably remember, this number is the second digit of the currently selected display group. To finish the sequence, press the arrow key and enter 06 to end the output. Final control diagnosis, which tests many of the actuators by energizing them, is initiated by the function code 03 with the ignition switched on. The complete procedure is described fully in the workshop manual and is similar to that of the new Audi 80, which was described in program 57A. For more in-depth fault finding of the Digifant system, a new adapter, VAG 1598/18, has been introduced. It has a 68-pole test box and can also be used on the monomotronic and VR6 engines. At the top end of the performance scale is the 6-cylinder VR6 engine. First seen in the Passat, this is a high-torque, smooth-running engine with compact dimensions. Its torque of more than 210 Newton-meters across a range of 2,100 to 6,000 RPM allows a high degree of flexibility. The Motronic engine management system of the VR6 engine, first seen in the Passat, has been revised. The revisions include a new idle stabilization valve and inlet air temperature sensor. This latest version of the Motronic system, known as M2.9, has improved self-diagnosis. Here is a brief look at some of its new features. Firstly, fault memory interrogation is carried out in the usual way via the rapid data mode. However, to check the engine's basic settings, enter the function code 04 and the display group numbers 01. Unlike some of the first Passat VR6 engines, where digital values were called up, with this system, 4 sets of physical values are displayed for you to evaluate. These are the engine RPM, coolant temperature, lambda factor, and the ignition timing. This helps considerably with maintenance, as it's simply a case of checking the values against the tolerances quoted in the literature to confirm the engine is running correctly. Once you are satisfied the readings are correct, press the arrow key and enter the code 06 to end the output. Calling up the measuring block menu by the function code 08 will, as in the Digifant system, allow you to enter a variety of display group numbers. For example, the display group number 03 will call up these 4 values: engine RPM, air mass signal, throttle valve angle, and intake air temperature. The air mass signal is displayed as a percentage. 100% would indicate the maximum air mass throughput at a nominal RPM. It's possible to enter 6 different display groups depending on the information you wish to access. As you would expect, a full list of the various display groups is given in the relevant manual. As with the Digifan system, to call up an alternative display group, first press the C key, followed by the new numbers. By carefully selecting and calling up the various readings, it's possible to closely define fault areas, enabling you to trace faults more quickly. Final control diagnosis for this engine is similar to that of the VR6 Passat. This is outlined in the video number 15A and is described fully in the workshop manual. The monomotronic system as fitted to the 1.4 and 1.8 litre engines is by now probably well known to you. However, here is a brief description of how to check the basic settings. With the engine at operating temperature, set the system into the adjustment mode by entering the function code 04, followed by the display group 00. Once again, while in this mode, the numbers displayed on the 1551 are of no significance. The idle speed, ignition timing, and CO values can then be checked against the specifications. Corrections to the timing can be made by adjusting the distributor. But, as with other management systems described so far, the idle speed and CO settings are not adjustable. Therefore, if the readings are incorrect, you would need to check the management system in detail. Monomotronic is also fitted with final control diagnosis. The procedure for initiating the test is described in the workshop manual and is similar to that of the new Audi 80, which, as previously mentioned, was described in program 57A. To reduce harmful emissions, the 75 bhp diesel engine is fitted as standard with an oxidization catalytic converter. This is also available for the 64 bhp engine. Another new feature is the user-friendly glow plug system of the turbo diesel engine. It's switched on when the driver's door is closed. This results, generally, in being able to start the engine immediately. To protect the battery, the system operates only twice, unless the ignition has been switched on in the meantime. The glow plug control unit is located in the additional carrier above the relay plate. The system is activated by a signal from the driver's door contact switch before inserting the ignition key. Should the glow plug warning lamp be lit after switching on the ignition, then wait until the light goes out before starting the engine. However, the glow plug system will only be initiated if the coolant sensor recognizes a temperature below 65 degrees centigrade. The same control unit also operates the load-dependent point of injection, and on vehicles with air conditioning, the pneumatically controlled idle speed increase. That completes this section of the program relating to the self-diagnosis features and special tools of the new Golf engines. The next part of this program, which covers the running gear, electrics, heating and ventilation, and the body, is continued in the video program number 14B. Please now answer the questions in the accompanying workbook.